our newest features with you. Let's get started with our agenda for today. Ben will begin by presenting you with usability enhancements. He will demonstrate some new dashboard and field browser enhancements, followed by a walkthrough of the Sumo Logic app for audit. After that, I will show you a demo of the Sumo Logic app for Box, and we'll discuss a few of its popular use cases. Next, I will touch upon the topic of future collection enhancements and configuration automation. Finally, we'll wrap up with a question and answer session if time permits. You can go ahead and add in your questions throughout the webinar. I'm going to hand it over to Ben now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. So really excited to talk to you today about some things that we're going to that we've just released, some really exciting things about making the product more of a delight and easier to use for you. So there are a couple things we're going to talk about real quick. Is we're going to talk about that with dashboards. I'm going to start off with that. We have made some dashboard updates around being able to have an easier editing mode and also being able to change the look and feel. So let's just go ahead and dig right into that. So I'm going to show you guys a live environment here. Okay, so great. So what you're looking at now is our new updated look and feel and redesign for our dashboards. We're super excited about releasing at the beginning of February, so this is coming very, very soon. So the first thing that we've done is we changed the way that you interact with your dashboards around editing and basically adjusting the layout. So the first thing that you're going to notice when you get this next month is there's now an explicit edit mode. And we did that so you're not making accidentally making changes to dashboards when you don't intend to, and there's a very clear differentiating between using your dashboard and editing your dashboard. Now, one thing I point out for that is that you're only going to have the edit mode on dashboards that you own, i.e. dashboards that you created. So if someone shared a dashboard with you, you're not going to have the edit mode. You're only a viewer at that point. So once you have that edit mode, there are a few different things that you'll be able to do. So, and we'll kind of walk through those one by one. So first off, you'll see that when you're in view mode, you basically see the overlays, like being able to see about what my data is doing. I have a new updated info panel that tells you more about what's going on. So we've taken a lot of the warnings and errors that you might see in this informational things and put them in one nice little dialogue here. Now, once you switch over to edit, you'll see that certain things appear that weren't there before. So you'll see the gear icon, and you also see things like being able to quickly delete and now move some of these panels. So I can move the panel from within the context of my layout. I can change the size to say I want to make this guy here a little bigger or a little smaller. I can easily do that. So you may have noticed that these flexible layouts that were in some of our applications that you might have installed, and we're now wanting to productize those and give those to you as users. Now, what you'll also be able to do is, like I said, go in here and change the settings as you were before. So when you're in view mode, you won't have access to that, but now you'll have access to these edit options. Now, we've also, as part of this is in general, being able to have an explicit edit mode and being able to both move and change the layout of your dashboard. We've also changed a lot about the look and feel to make it just more of a pleasure to use. So the first thing you'll notice is with the overall settings icon, you got something called toggle theme. So we now have a dark and a light theme. So now I can change this over to a dark theme. So for example, our own operations team here in the office prefers the dark theme for just to have a really nice contrast for important application metrics. And then also you'll be able to, then toggle that back if I want to view it in white, basically go back and forth. Now, one thing I'll mention here, this is really just the start of giving you more control over how colors are displayed on your dashboard. So we're starting off with theming, but then one of the things you'll see in upcoming months, you'll be able to have tighter control over the color scheme for your dashboard, make sure that color scheme is consistent over time, and then it'll also adjust between light and dark themes to make sure that you have high contrast colors and things like that. Now, after you have the ability to toggle the themes like this, you also have the ability to add some new objects. So one thing, just to start off with, you'll see a change in terminology that I want to point out. And that's, you're probably used to, if you've seen the documentation, that we referred to in the past the charts here as monitors. And that was just, referring to our kind of real-time monitoring capability. Now, what we've done is we've kind of updated the kind of things you can add to your dashboard. So now we're calling those panels, which is more of a kind of a standard way of referring to it in kind of the dashboarding industry. So as part of that now, we're actually adding two new panel types. So you have data panels, which is what you've used in the past, and now you have something called a title panel and a text panel. So for example, I can now go and say add awesome new title. And this will actually create a brand new panel, which I can then, drag. You see the little move icon here. I can drag it up here, resize it, and this allows me to add this useful spacing and just really make my dashboard a pleasure to look at. Now, what we also have done is we've added this new thing called a text panel. So a text panel is actually based on the Markdown syntax, which many of you are familiar with, for example, for WordPress and other tools out there. There's different versions out there. But we are going to allow you to basically do formatted text. Now, I'll go show you one that I've already created here to give you an example of some of the things you can do. This really gives you the ability to create nicely formatted and helpful sections in your dashboard that maybe refer to outside links. So for example, here, you can see that I've created headers. So for example, the documentation header. I've added bulleted lists, and I've also added named links. So for example, here I just wanted to pick out 3 documentation links. And then I can also do, and I think this is one of my favorite features here, is being able to link to other dashboards. So you may have been familiar with the idea that you could actually take a dashboard and change the drill down behavior of a dashboard. Instead of going to a search, you could have it go to another dashboard. Well, now we're adding the flexibility for you to be able to add links directly to other dashboards. So for example, in this case, if I wanted to have a high-level application dashboard and then I wanted to link to in-depth dashboards and basically describe those in detail so people knew what they were looking at, I can do that. And so you'll be able to really create and add more detail to your dashboard in this way, and I think really make your dashboards easier to consume. Now finally, we also changed the look and feel. So you'll see kind of a look and feel change overall, just trying to make things easier to read and easier to consume. But what you also notice is that we changed the pie chart and the basically the single value monitor. So with the pie chart here, basically we made more of a kind of a donut view. Now you will have the option to change back to more of a traditional pie chart view if you so choose, but you'll have this updated view here, and it's basically going to have the same functionality except it's kind of an updated, nicer looking view. Now also with the single value monitor, a lot of you probably have used that. We really wanted to change 2 things. One, make it easier to consume and easier to read, easier on the eyes. So you'll see that it's just a lot easier to look at. Now you'll also be able to, if you go into looking at changing properties, one of the things we tried to do was simplify the properties for the single value monitor. So now it's very clear about what kind of options you have. So first off, you will now have a section for when data is available and when data is not available. So in this way, you can actually change the default color to express a state. So for example, if you were looking at errors, then when data is not available, then actually overriding the background color to green would make sense, because not having any errors would be a good thing, not a bad thing. Now secondly, if you are, for example, if you are in doing something where having no data is a bad thing, so for example, if there's no visitors to your website, that's a really bad thing, you could change this to red and have that be an error condition. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in that way. And you'll be able to kind of create almost more of like heat map type of dashboard and have a very quick visual indication. So, just kind of then taking a step back, one of the things that we're also, just to kind of give you a preview where we're going to be going with this, we're also going to be simplifying this settings dialog to make this easier for you to use. In particular, we're going to be adding previews, and like I mentioned before, we're going to be adding more control over the color scheme. So I think you can look forward to that in the upcoming months. And please reach out to us with features that you would like to see as you use this, and feedback, because we want this to be as absolutely useful to you as possible as you take advantage of our system. And like I said, this will be coming down the wire in the beginning of February. We'll be rolling this out over the course of a couple days, and you should have access to that. And then what way this will actually occur in your account is as soon as you launch your dashboards, they will be automatically converted to the new format. There's nothing you have to do on your side. It'll just happen automatically, and you'll immediately be able to take advantage of the new formatting. Okay, so the other big usability improvement that is already out there in the system that we wanted to kind of review and just basically give everybody a little bit more in-depth sense of what was going on there is the field browser. So this is something that we released at the end of last year, and this allows you to really take advantage of basically navigating the structure of your data and your logs. So to start off with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for my Apache log. So I'm going to search for Apache/access, and I'm going to start. I want to basically start investigating what's going on with my data. Now, one thing I would say right off the bat, you now have this new little basically field browser that you've probably seen pop up already, and hopefully you've taken advantage of. Now, one thing you might notice is you might see more fields here than you would normally see when you just type in a search string like source category or error or something like that. One of the reasons why you see that is because we have a field extraction rule set up. So I'm going to point this out. We don't have time to go through this in detail today, but I definitely recommend you go taking a look at this, because field extraction rules are a way for you to automatically extract fields as they're coming in. So for example, here you can see I have an Apache access rule that is parsing out my fields for Apache. By doing this, it means that a certain set of fields, and you can see them here, are going to be automatically added to my logs as they're coming in. So what happens now is that when I search across those Apache logs, I automatically see a large number of fields that allow me to understand what's going on with my data without doing any parsing rules. So now, for example, I can go down and see that, you know what, I would like to see what's going on with my source IPs. I would like to actually see that as a field. So I can click on that. I can choose to display that. So now you have this concept of display fields and hidden fields. Now, with fields, for example, from field extraction, they may automatically show up in here, your metadata. You can also, for example, if I was to add a new parsing rule, let's just say that I wanted to pull out the date here. So I'm going to parse that, and I'm going to say date. Now, if I add that and rerun this search, that will actually come up. I should have added that. That will actually come up as a field in the display field. So in this way, now you can see that it's actually added an additional field. So any fields that you're parsing in your expression will automatically show up in the display fields, because they're obviously important to you because you mentioned them here. But I can actually go in here now and turn that off if I wanted to and add and display that. Now, if I go back and look at the source IP, let's talk a little bit about the statistics that you have. So one of the really important things about the field browser is that you can see right here that you see the number of values of a field. So that another way of talking about the cardinality of the field. So basically, this is saying that there are 7 different source IPs within the data that I'm displaying here, right? Now, one of the things I really want to know is I want to know how often these IPs have been occurring. Now, in the past, you would have had to run a search and done a count by source IP. Now I'm immediately seeing a histogram here, so I'm very easily to see that this 17.233 address is almost 19% of my traffic. Now, one of the nice things here is if I want to know more about that IP, which is kind of the natural next question I would ask, let's just say that this one was 90% of my traffic, I might be under attack. I can click on that. It will automatically launch a new search that filters down to this source IP. And so in this way, it's very easy for me to start really working through my data. So now I may see is, okay, for that source IP, what are the URLs that that source IP is looking at? Well, you know, this one right here, I'm not really happy they're looking at. That actually might be a known vulnerability in my application. So now I want to dig in that. And so you can see in this way that allows me to quickly and easily start investigating my data without having to, you know, write lots of complicated expressions and hopefully make this very fast for you. Now, what you can also do back with any one of these fields, if I go back to my source IP here, we've also added some common drill downs. So, for example, top values over time, and bottom values. So if I click on one of these, they'll also run a brand new search, and then it will automatically add something like, for example, here, top 10 source IP by count. So in this way, you don't necessarily have to know what all the different search expressions right off the bat. You can use this as a way to work through your data and learn how to use these expressions correctly. Now, one thing I would say too, as you are kind of looking through your data and you're figuring the fields that make the most sense to you and that are important to you, as you notice here, I added date field and source IP to the list of display fields. Now let's say, for example, that, you know what, I'm not as interested in date fields anymore, but I really want source IP and URL to always show up when I'm looking at logs. So now I can go to this little save icon here, and here you can see my preferences will be saved. And what this means is that when I launch a search later, then I will automatically have those same fields showing up. There you see the source IP and URL automatically added. Now, I don't know if you remember when I first started the demo here, but it was only showing time and message. So this is a way for you to kind of start basically building a set of fields that you want to look at on a normal basis and keep that over time. Now, this is obviously only for your account. And if the fields that you picked are not in the results for whatever reason, so say, for example, you see now that data field's not here because I haven't extracted it, it just wouldn't show up. So that works as you might expect. So, you know, taking a step back, just with the field browser here, this is something that's just going to automatically be there for you. It should be a way for you to quickly kind of examine your data. And also, again, I would encourage you to take a look at field extractions and see how, particularly for those of you who are administrators for your account, and if you're not the administrator, talk to those who administrate your account, and you can reach out to us for help and start setting up some of these automatic field extractions, because basically, you know, I've heard from a few of our users and our customers saying that this really revolutionizes and changes the way that they use their logs within our system, because with these automatically extracted fields and now with the field browser, you can very, very quickly start to understand the patterns in your data without having to write a lot of complicated queries, and do that very quickly. Okay, so hopefully that was just some interesting updates for you on that side. Now let's switch over and talk a little bit about the audit index. So we will stop sharing here. Okay, so one thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about is the Sumo Logic Audit Index. Now, this is something that you already have in your account. This is something that you can enable under the global security settings. So if you go under Manage and you go under the Security menu, you'll see I have a screenshot of it right there for you. You can enable the Audit Index. This is something that you can do today if you like. Now, we will be adding to this over time based on the things that you would like and based on, you know, new products and things that we add, features that we add within the product. But right now, there's 3 general categories. And I encourage you to go to our help documentation and kind of look at the details. But just at a high level, we are looking at administrative activities. So this is things like creating a user, setting up a data forwarding rule, deleting a user, you know, these kind of things that only an admin would do. User activities. So this is going to be things like logins, changing password, things like that that your users are doing within the tool. And then one of the things that we added recently based on a lot of feedback from you as users was scheduled search activity. So, scheduled searches are very important to our customers who are using this as a way to actively monitor their applications and infrastructure. And so they really want to know what's going on with those scheduled searches and understand, who's running them, if they failed because maybe they're misconfigured, and we want to give you that data. Now, once you've enabled that, you can actually search against that data in the _index equals Sumo Logic _ audit. Again, there's a bunch of sample searches within the documentation, and you should definitely take a look at it. Now, if we go on to the next slide here, we can take a little bit look at where the app is going to be coming. This is something we're looking at releasing next month, along with the updated dashboards. So what we've done is we've tried to roll up this data in a way that's easier for you to consume. So, for example, here we're looking at user activity. So we're looking at successful login on the left there, so you can see who's logged in and when. We can see where they're coming from. So this is something that you might recognize from if you've used CloudTrail. It's that type of data where we're really giving you an idea of seeing who is coming in, where are they coming from, and then, of course, you can easily modify this to, for example, a short list of countries that you expect people to come from, a short list of IPs. This is something that you can modify this application. Now, next, you also have something around account management. So this is more, like I said, the administrative activity. So looking at things that people are doing, like adding users, adding access keys, data forwarding, adding roles, and tracking that over time so you can make sure that people aren't doing things that you don't expect. And then finally, would be the scheduled searches part, which it will basically tell you how many searches that you've run, how often they've been running, if they've had failures. So, for example, we get a lot of questions from our users about searches that they're dependent on that failed. So you'll be able to go in and see exactly when those searches failed. And, for example, if you have a user that set up a scheduled search that is firing off emails too often, you could track that down and start to troubleshoot that. So look forward to giving this to you next month. Let me hand it back to Vera.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Next, I'd like to share with you a demo on our Box, Sumo Logic application for Box. And let's go to this next intro slide. So as you know, Box is a well-known enterprise collaboration service. Users manage and contribute content and also collaborate with one another in their enterprise Box environment. Box also generates audit data, and this audit data can be consumed and analyzed by Sumo Logic. Just so you know, Sumo Logic is also a Box Trust ecosystem partner. Okay, so some of the use cases I'd like to share with you are that you can audit end user and administrator activity, and this will help you understand how your users interface with your content. You can collect details about user and device origins by viewing metrics based on geographic location, device types, and network location. You can gain the ability to view different ways that users collaborate by monitoring their access to different shared resources. You can also determine how to manage Box licenses across your organization's top content creators and consumers. Furthermore, you can investigate failed login activity and suspicious administrative actions that could be hampering productivity. You can identify potential security threats or intruders who may be trying to access your private content. And lastly, you can generally use Sumo Logic to search for any specific event or activity in your Box environment. There might be some sort of unique issue that you might need to pay attention to or remediate some issues there. Now, let me show you our dashboards. Okay. Let me just launch my browser here. So starting off with the first one, I'll share with you the Box collaboration and shares dashboard. So if you can see my screen here, on the top left, you can see who's the most collaborative user. Maybe this could be the activity of an overachiever, or on the contrary, maybe a suspicious user or an intruder. This is on the upper left. And now down at the bottom left, this is the shared resources panel here, and it may reveal content that could be accidentally overshared and may require an administrator to adjust access permissions. And over here on the right, this list may be useful and could reveal malicious users who might be overgranting access to sensitive department restricted data. Now let's show you another dashboard, the Box Resource Access Dashboard. Here on the upper left, you can see your top 10 content creators. You can, is that correct? Right. You can use this list and query behind it to determine how to distribute your Box licenses. Also, on the left, let me see here, the top resource creator panel. Here on the bottom left and the bottom middle are dashboards that show you the most accessed resources and ones that are downloaded and most highly viewed. It's good to know who is downloading and viewing critical content, just in case you have security concerns. Okay, let's take a look at the Box User Monitoring Dashboard. Now here you'll find multiple user panels. You can view the top 10 users that log into your system. And again, it's good to know who your power users are so that you know who you shouldn't remove licenses from. They may be your most productive users. This third panel on the right shows the top login failures. It's good to know who is repeatedly failing to log in. You might be able to identify a malicious attacker here, or maybe you'll need to send an administrator to resolve the login issue to restore productivity. On the top right here, it is important to view this list of administrative activities performed by your users. The query behind this panel is critical in helping you identify potential malicious activity as well. And it shows you if they've edited user groups or added a user, or even deleted users. That could be dangerous as well. Okay, so so that concludes our section on the Box dashboards. I'm going to continue on to explain to you some of the changes we've made in collection management. There are some enhancements around that are coming up in February, and I'd like to describe that to you. So let's go back here. Okay, we have improved our support for configuration management tools and processes. You're probably familiar with a configuration automation tool such as Chef and Puppet, so we're enhancing our support around there. We will then have a full lifecycle managed by sources through local configuration files. So let me explain an overview of how we will be supporting this. So here we are today, as you can see with these two areas for file-based configuration management. We do not support edit and delete functionality, stay with specifically file-based management. However, moving forward in February, we actually will be supporting this. As you can see, there's two yellow boxes over there, which will enable you to use Chef or Puppet to actually automate the editing and deletion of your sources collection. Okay, so here's a process overview. Actually, I'll show you on the next page. Okay, so right here I also have this content here. As you can see, installation across whether it's API or the UI or local file-based configuration, you can install your collectors and sources through this method on the top right here. The sources.json file will get pushed updates to your sources. So here we have an existing two sources, source 1 and source 2. And when you install the collector, Sumo Logic recognizes this. And as you register the collector and register your sources, Sumo Logic will keep track of this. And the difference here then, as we are able to support the local configuration here, if you were to update sources, as you see, source 1 and source 2 are already inside your sources.json file. If you were to add an additional one, you can see it appear here. So this is the update sources section if you're looking at the graphic here, source 3. So you would add it here. trying to take a look at my slide here. And also, you can copy the sources.json file to all of your hosts using some sort of automation tool, whether it be Chef or Puppet, or even some homegrown tool that you might have. So host 1 through host 1,000, or however many you have. And then there's also on the right there, you can see the collector is actually watching this, constantly watching this. So if there are any changes to the sources.json file on any of your hosts, Sumo Logic will recognize this and perform an update. So that concludes the section on the new collector process. I'd like to open this session for question and answers. Let's see here.
So we just saw there was a quick question about how you would hook field extraction rules into dashboards. So that is a fantastic question. So if you pass the control back over to me, Vera, I'll show my screen really quickly. But let me answer that as she's doing that. Basically, field extraction rules, if you extract fields, that will be available where whatever part of the product you want to use that in. So it's not like you have to do something special for particularly for dashboards. So let me just show you exactly how you would do that to be very specific. So for example, if we're going back to the sample Apache logs, you can see that we had the source IP. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to create a nice pie chart around source IPs. So if I do this, when I have extracted that field, I no longer have to have a parsing statement around that. That's part of the real power here, is that you and your users won't have to actually directly parse those out. Now, once I have that, I can now add a nice little pie chart here, and then I just add that to a dashboard. There's nothing special that has to be done. So if I go select, for example, the one that we were looking at before, and call this, source IPs, and then I add that, then that will get added to that dashboard just like any other search that you might have created. So it's really intended to be very easy for you to set up, and now you can see that it's actually starting that panel. So there's nothing special that you really need to do. Now, one other question that we had was, I don't really know how to write parsing rules, so is there really anything you can do to help me there? So there's a few things that we're doing now and that we also will do in the future. So one thing I'd point out is if you go to field extraction, and this is an administrative function, so for those of you who are not administrators, you won't see that option, so work with your Sumo Logic administrator if you don't have those right to do this for you. But if you add a new field extraction rule, what you'll see is that we added a new section called templates. So for example, if I wanted to add in Cloudtrail logs, because I just set that up, I can now look at that. We've already put some examples in there for you. I can use that template, and then I can edit that. And most of the time, you will do some level edits for that, because you may want to name the fields differently. You may want to use slightly different syntax. But what this will allow you to do is to very easily start with a basis of something that you can work from, instead of having to basically extract this out of thin air. Particularly if you're newer to parsing, this might be difficult. Now, we don't have an exhaustive list there, and nor was it intended to be, and we really look forward to you giving us feedback about what you'd like to see in there. So if there's some other log type that you'd really like to see automatically extracted and have some examples for that, just open up a support ticket or open up a, we have a part of the community section of the product that allows you to put in different requests for product changes. So definitely take advantage of that. And like I said, once you do that, then you'll have availability for those throughout the product. So those are great questions. Thank you for bringing that up. And if you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Now, another question that we had was, okay, so you say that I can only use edit mode if I own the dashboard. What if I don't own the dashboard, but I'd really like to change the layout? So you do always have the option of going, if you go into the library and look for example, here we have some different applications in this section here that were built by somebody else. So for example, if I launch AWS console logins here, this was something that was created by another user. I do not have the edit button, but I can always go and right click or there's chevrons over here to the far right, and I can copy. And if I copy, I can put that into my own account, and then all I have to do is start up that dashboard, so start up the individual data panels, and then I can do whatever I want with it. So if you if you really want to have a completely different layout than what someone else has, then you can do that. And we do plan to give you more capabilities around finer grain control, but today you don't necessarily have to wait for that to be able to do things like that. Okay, so another question about some of the limitations, a question about the limitations of field extraction. So there are a few limitations out there right now that we can point out. Really the most important one is the 50 rule limit. That's in place because this is a new feature, and we want to make sure that the functionality doesn't affect the uptime of the platform and affect other users. That is something that we do plan on lifting within the short term. That's really just a shorter term operational constraint. And if you are running into problems and you worry about running into that limit, reach out to our support organization, and we'll get you in touch with somebody who can help you plan out your field extraction templates. So if you're really planning on adding dozens of field extraction templates, do not hesitate to reach out, and we will work with you. Now, another question about can you create your own template? Today, no, but if that's something that is important to you, please go into our support site, go to the community section, and put that in as a product request, and then vote that up. That's something we definitely take a look at. There are some things that we're looking at in terms of being able to allow our users to have more basically be able to package up functionality and share with each other. So your input about what's really important to you and what you would like to see is absolutely invaluable. So please just give us that feedback. Now, a couple other questions about the dashboards that I wanted to answer. One was you mentioned Markdown. I have no idea what Markdown is. How can you help me with that? Well, we will have when this launches, we will have a documentation page on that, and it was not in the demo that I showed you today, but there will be a link within that text box that can link you directly to the syntax. It will, again, it's going to be pretty industry standard. It's not something we just invented on our own. If you've used it, for example, with WordPress, it's very similar to what WordPress does. It's basically the same as what WordPress does. So you'll have a familiarity there, and it's not something you will only be able to find through. So Vera, do we have any other questions that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just a couple here. This is around the Box application. So one of the common questions is, how does Sumo Logic link to Box? We use a simple script which requests access through Box Access Control System. The script then pulls the data down, and the data is ingested through Sumo Logic's collector. So just to let you know, we never store your password, but the access token is stored on your machine. Okay, and then another question is, can I install it now? Yes, it's available in our library today. You can just follow the documentation to set up the collection first. You can also extend the application by customizing queries that are provided. And another question is that should each person install the application for Box? And the answer is you'll likely only want to install the application once. So after one of your admins configure the data collection, you only need to install the application once, and then you can use the publishing feature to share the dashboards and searches to your team. Okay, and then around collector management, there's one question, and it is, can I edit sources in the cloud as well as locally, and can I do this simultaneously? So no, you cannot do this simultaneously, and it is for your protection that we only allow you to view your sources from the UI if you have opted to manage your sources by local file configuration. So the sources will be viewable if you go into the UI, but they'll be grayed out. So it helps protect you from overwriting your JSON's collector file.
Now, a follow-up question that I saw as well is that not everyone uses Chef and Puppet. Someone asked about Salt Stack. Some of you may use things like Ansible. We didn't call those out specifically, but this is not a specific feature just for Chef and Puppet. If you have any homegrown automation tool, Vera did mention that, but just to emphasize, This is a configuration automation, integration. So whatever tools that you guys have, you should be able to, integrate into those platforms. Now, we do have some community-supported content for Chef and Puppet, which will be continued to be updated, and we encourage you to participate. Your participation makes it better for yourself and for everyone else. So, please participate on GitHub. You can go to github.com/sumologic, but you are not limited to those sets of configuration automation tools. So, definitely reach out if you have any questions on that. Vera?
Okay, let's see. Here. And yes, a couple of questions came through. We will have a link to this video, so we'll send that out after the session. We had a couple questions come in about that.
So there's a question about predefined filter security analysis. No, we don't have that specifically right now. That's something you should definitely put in as a feature request on our site. We can provide some level of guidance through the community and through our support organization, but we don't have it basically in there for security. Now, that said, we do have one right now. I believe there's one for Cisco, and we can add more additionally for. So really, if you think about the field extraction rules right now, they're primarily focused on different log types, not necessarily on security use cases versus ops use cases versus anything else. So they're very easy to adjust to your needs. Now, that also said, we do have a PCI app and a security app that our solutions team, basically our professional services team, can work with you to install. This is something that they would work with you for some period of time to set up for basically a professional services engagement. And in the process of that professional service engagement, just to make a long story short, they will set these up for you and set up some automatic parsing rules and automatic classification rules and things like that. So if you're particularly interested in that kind of security classification, I'd recommend that you reach out to your sales rep and talk about actually setting up that application. Okay, no other questions?
No, I believe that's
well, thanks everybody from, do we have any more there? Okay. Okay, there was this mention that there's also a Sumo Logic PowerShell module, and it's absolutely right. One of our customers set something up and shared it with the community, so that's fantastic, and definitely take a look at that if you're on the Windows side. And there's actually other ones out there. There's one in Python and other things like that, and we love the community, community supported tools like that. And there was a question about, is there going to be an update around more visualization of problems with your collectors and sources with some kind of check marks and errors? We are definitely looking at things on that side. We can, provide more details in other, the context. I definitely recommend if you have some specific questions to reach out to support on that, and we can give you some specific guidance. But we're absolutely looking to provide more actionable, basically more actionable notifications to you about the state of your system. So if there's particular things that you're concerned about, I definitely recommend you reaching out to support to get, that we can talk to you directly about that and make sure that we're achieving your requirements.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.